Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. Today is another LEGO Top 10 MOCs of the Week episode where I show you guys the coolest custom creations I happen to see people building in LEGO throughout this last week. I swear as time goes by, I find more and more amazing creations being built every week, and the creativity simply doesn't stop. There's some amazing techniques I've never seen before, and just fun, weird, interesting design choices all around. I've linked about 30, maybe more creations in the description below, and I highly recommend you check out a few of them, because if there's anything that I talk about in this episode that you like, you'll probably find even more cool stuff linked in the description below. So without wasting any time, let's jump right into the very first build. This is called Edward's Island by Dale Harris. Now there's a few things that jumped out to me. Initially, just looking at it from afar, you can see there's kind of this interesting color combination with the prime colors. So the blue, yellow, and red are really vibrant. They pop quite well, but the techniques themselves are actually quite sophisticated, even though it gives you this idea of sort of a simplified toy. And then when you look up close, you'll see that he's using the main colors that were all used in those Fabuland sets, and all the figures are in fact not minifigures but Fabuland figs. I don't see a lot of people building, or any people maybe building really, with Fabuland stuff. Maybe on occasion you'll find a little model here or there with a fig included, but this really pays homage to the original theme, but it's just really fun. It's this great big wonderful cartoony town with lots of details up close, and it's incredibly eye-catching from afar. Jumping right along, this is called Happy Lunar New Year by Galaktek. Once again, the use of bright, vibrant colors really makes this model pop. There's some great techniques used for the center build. Not entirely sure what you call that structure, and you can also see some lion dancing, some dragon dancing, as well as a few people celebrating the new year on side to side. I just really like the really bright, vibrant red and gold, and how that contrasts with the somewhat simple and more muted colors of the buildings on either side. Now we're jumping to the third build, moving down. This is called Guardian by Sheo, and by the way, I'm not going in any particular order of best to worst. This is just 10 creations I really like, and a whole bunch more in the description below. But here is a gold dragon, I'm going to assume, or something that looks quite like a gold dragon, I guess. And there's just a few really weird and interesting building techniques used to create this body of the creature. It kind of reminds me almost like a salamander, how smooth it is, and the articulating arch pieces right in the center by the waist look amazing. The nearly monochrome color combination for the body, it's almost all yellow everywhere you look, minus just a little bit of orange highlights here and there, give you the idea that this is like a solid gold looking beast. On top of that, there's some wonderful techniques used to make the pathway in the middle, and if you look really close, there's just a little bit of green growing here and there. The use of those Technic pieces to make up the wings is awesome, and my guess is the knight is gonna have to do something to prove himself, or unfortunately take on the wrath of this rather large and somewhat intimidating looking dragon. But this isn't the only dragon build for this week, actually. But we're not there yet. This is the Peregrines Shipyard by Gabrial Thomson. This is an interesting kind of build. We have this old style shipyard where they're building the hulls out underneath a few very ornately done roofs, and when you see sort of this old style of building, often you don't get such an interesting color combination, which I think is really the thing that grabbed me initially when I saw it. The sand green for the roofs with the little bit of gold ornate on top really makes this thing flash quite well, and then the rooftops are relatively vibrant here, but somehow it feels still within the realm of possibility in terms of a somewhat historic looking build. The wet stones with the dark gray are a wonderful detail. I love the way the water looks and how it stops becoming transparent as it becomes a little bit deeper, and the ship hulls look amazing. There's some wonderful little scenes. It really is just a really well put together diorama here, with some color choices that are a little bit out of place but absolutely elevate the quality of the build. It's been a while since we showed off any motorcycle builds, so here we have a really wonderful one. This is by Henrik Jensen. It's called the Indian Chief Classic 2017. In terms of technicalities, I have no doubt that this model is built to a very specific set of specifications, and what you have is a wonderfully ornate chromed out vehicle. Some of those pieces have been custom chromed. That's pretty common when it comes to motorcycle and car builders, and certainly this example here is definitely to its benefit. There's even chromed harpoon pieces that make up up the mirrors, and the golden flexi tubes make just a little bit of extra ornate detailing that wrap around the front and back mudguards. There's a lot of great angles that this guy took pictures of for the Indian. It looks awesome. And then this is a pretty interesting one. We have from Felix Jaensch a build called Claudia. This is the first time he's attempted a person, though if you look through his Flickr account, you'll see lots of interesting organic animals and creations there, one of which is actually the red fox, which is a design that you can find up in our web store, www.brickvault.toys. Go check it out. But this build here, Claudia, is very interesting. Like always, there is a lot of life poised into the characters and creatures that he makes, and the creative choices here for the person and the pose is interesting, to say the least. In a lot of ways, this build style kind of reminds me of Nathan Sawaya as well, because this is a life-size person build done in the somewhat classic blocky fashion, though Claudia here is not a monochrome character, and I think that design choice definitely adds a bit more life to the creation overall. Now let's jump onto a build that I find it's definitely on one of my top favorites for the week for sure. It's called Val Delia, solar-powered Gentlelady. Amongst the world of LEGO builders, there is a very strong subset of people that almost primarily build just with Bionicle pieces, and the designer Poor Disadvantaged has strayed somewhat away from their Bionicle roots and embraced a little bit more of LEGO system bricks in this build, but also just made some absolutely amazing creative decisions that really make this one of the more unique custom brick built figures I have seen, I think. There's a lot of details that I find amazing. It says solar powered, so you can see the brick built solar panels that make up part of the clothing here is an interesting design choice, but then the handle blade of the katana is made up of those little Technic ball pieces and a lot of Ninjago face masks, which is so cool. The ends of the fingers are rounded over in a wonderful way. That is an awesome piece to use to make fingers. And then I think a lot of you are also noticing the interesting build for the head. I think that is a white shoulder pauldron that has been attached, and then on either side there's those little 1x1 modified plates that give you a wonderful impression for the orange eyes. It's so simple, yet it actually looks relatively feminine, and ultimately it's just one of those builds where it looks like all the creative design choices really meshed quite well. Nothing sticks out in any particular way, and the style is just incredibly well realized. Now here's something I debated putting in the top 10. I always hear people saying that putting a digital build isn't quite the same thing as putting real physical ones, and you're right, but at the same time, if you don't have the bricks and you have an amazing mind for design, and there's some cool, weird, interesting techniques used, then I don't know, I just gotta show it off. This is from aukbricks. It's called F-Town Building, and that stylistic wall that you can see on the outside of this very modern looking building is made up of just white 1x1s. The underside. Now, if this was built in real life, I have a feeling this would be such an incredibly painstaking process to do. And on top of that, I don't know how you could actually get them to line up so perfectly. So this is where the digital part maybe is a little bit fantastical, because those would definitely be crooked if I was making this building. Now, outside of that, there's some wonderful interior shots. It looks great from all angles. And this is something that if it didn't look like it would destroy my thumbs to put together, I would definitely want to get like a modular version of this in our LEGO city at some point. Now, like I said, there was a second dragon build, and here it is. This is so, I mean, just look at that moment paused in time. We have the light up flame wrapping around the knight. He better have some magical spell protecting him and his horse, or it looks like this is going to be the end of his encounter. From the builder Alexander, or sorry, I should correct myself. I found this photo from the person Alexander on Flickr, and it's part of a BrickVention. It's part of one of the displays, so I'm not actually sure who the final designer is here. At least it felt a little bit vague in the description of the Flickr feed, and there was pictures of other designs, so I don't exactly know who did this one. If you do know the builder, please let me know. I'd be very glad to link the original Flickr and designer if there's other photos, but if this is simply a build that I could not avoid talking about for this episode. The dragon has a wonderfully detailed brick built face. It's an amazing dragon head. This is I think the hardest part, or one of the harder parts to really get right, and then on top of that, the proportions are just excellent. The jagged rocks all shooting up in one particular angle is a really interesting, intimidating, and also just fun looking feature for a display. And then once again, jumping back towards the fire, fire. There's a great color depth included with the flames, and the fact that it actually lights up right at the center by the mouth just makes this, just really pushes the look home in a very special way. Once again, if you know who the final designer is for this, I would love to hear it in the comments below. And now we're jumping on to the final build of this video, and it is a doozy of a creation from Grant Davis, and actually a collaboration with Eli Wilsey and Mika Beideman. It's a creation that started back in May of 2019, and I just can't believe I missed this creation up until now. It is an absolute masterpiece. The details here in every little corner of the screen are just so incredibly well thought out. From up close, you can see different techniques used to make rooftops, and the walls are built in different ways. There's makeshift walkway on the right hand side being supported by musket pieces, a train car that's stopped just before where the tracks have broken away. The signage on the shop is absolutely awesome. And then there is a just massive, colorful, painted city in the distance. This is a depth of field kind of forced perspective build on top of the amazing custom creation details, and there are just so many wonderful things to notice that I'm really glad that this designer also made a YouTube video showing the behind the scenes of a lot of these creations a little bit further up close, and you can see how they actually took this picture. So that is also linked in the description if you want to see that too, and I highly recommend that you take advantage of it, because this is really this is a creation at this particular scale that just doesn't come around too often. Anyways, we're looking at something that's absolutely excellent. I highly recommend you check out all the links in the description below. That is going to be it for the top 10 mocks of the week, everybody. I think I keep on adding more and more creators to the list in the description below every single week, and frankly, it's still just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the amount of creative designs and builds that we see coming from this community every single week, every single day. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. If you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe, and we will see you next time at BrickVault.